Hey guys, this is video lesson number 2. Now listen, if you haven't seen my first lesson where I kind of talk about the anatomy of the bass and start to get into the note names, go check that out before watching this because you're going to need to know the information from that because I'm going to use a lot of the terminology moving forward. So make sure you go back, revisit that, get a refresher, and watch that video before you continue on with this video. So this video is, we're going to be talking about the notes. We started to get into the note names in the last video. I want to specifically talk about what the musical alphabet is and talking about sharps and how they factor into music. So with all that said, let's get started. Here we are again. We're going to talk about just the notes and the note names moving forward. And before we really even dive into all of that, one point that I want us all to remember is that music is a language. Just like English is a language, music is a language. And just like English has building blocks, so does the musical language. So when I say building blocks, you notice that with the English language, there's letters. Letters make words. Words make sentences, and that's how we communicate. In the same way, the musical language has the building blocks, which is the alphabet, the musical alphabet. So the English alphabet goes from A through Z, the musical alphabet goes from A through G, and then it starts back over again. It's a pattern, it's a repeating pattern. Okay guys, so like I said, the English alphabet goes from A to Z, but the musical alphabet goes from A to G and it repeats all over again, starting at A again. So you'll see I have it written out here on the bottom, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then A again, so on and so forth. That's how it would go musically. Now what I want you guys to notice is that in between some of these notes, there's a sharp, okay? As you move up the musical alphabet, as you go up higher, higher, and higher, in the direction of notes going higher, you'll deal with the sharps. If you go down, you'll deal with the flats, but we won't worry about those right now. The sharps and flats are what's called accidentals. They end up in between notes, and they take their name from the note that's preceding them, especially the sharp. So to say that another way is, if you want to know the name of the sharp, you find out the name of the note that came right before it. So as you can see though, there are two notes that don't have a sharp. That would be B and E. So you see I wrote down here, no B sharp, E sharp, or no B. So that you can kind of remember B and E have there's no such thing as B sharp, there's no such thing as E sharp. So with that said, we can kind of move up. If we start at A, in between A and B, there's A sharp. Remember, no B, so B, there's no sharp in between them, so a half step above B would be C, okay? So now if we're at C, a half step above C, in between C and D is C sharp. Now at D, a half step above D, in between D and E is D sharp. Again, no B, so E doesn't have a sharp. There's no such thing as E sharp. So a half step above E is F. Then a half step above F is F sharp, and that comes between F and G. And then a half step above G is G sharp, and that comes between G and A. And you would continue this cycle over and over and over again. So one thing that's important while we're looking at this line is to remember that it's less of a line and more of a circle. So again, this is repeating. So I could have drawn it like a circle that goes around. And I say that to say, wherever you start playing, that's when we jump in and that's where we begin. So for example, if we started playing at D, then you would know the next one is D sharp, E, and it would continue on that way. I can start playing at G and understand that it would start my cycle again. There should be a G here that would go A, B, C. Everything is a circle. It's a pattern that repeats. So you can start playing your instrument and you'll know that that's where you're picking up at. So if we're keeping in mind everything that we just talked about, the musical alphabet going in a circle, I've got the bass back up and we're gonna revisit our bass notes, okay? So remember, our bottommost string is G. Then the next one up, this one is the second one, it's gonna be D. Then we've got A, and we've got E. Okay, so G, D, A, E. Now remember, wherever you pick up at, wherever you jump into in the alphabet, since it's a circle, it's a pattern, it's a repeating pattern, that's where we start, okay? So if we keep in mind, let's say we wanted to start from our bottommost string right here, E. A half step up, if we remember no B, meaning there's no such thing as E sharp, so our half step up from E is F. A half step up from F is F sharp. A half step up from F sharp is G, and so on and so forth. The same thing occurs if we start at A, which is the next string down, A. We know that open, we're starting at A, that's the beginning of our musical alphabet for this cycle. A half step up from A is A sharp. A half step up from A sharp is B. Now we keep in mind no B, so there's no such thing as B sharp, so a half step up from there is C. Okay guys, so we're gonna quiz you. So what I'm gonna do is I'll have us find, for example, A, right? Let's find the letter A, the note A, but using only our first string, the E string, okay? So in order to do that, we're gonna have to move through step by step. So we'll start with the open E. Half step up from there is F. Remember, no E sharp, there's no such thing. Half step up from there is F sharp. A half step up from there is G. A half step up from G is G sharp. And then a half step up from G sharp is A. So that's how you would find the letter A using only the E string. So now we're gonna quiz you again. We're gonna do it again. I'm gonna move a little bit quicker this time. So starting on the G string, using the G string only, try to find the letter C, okay? So we start at G. Half step up is G sharp. Half step up is A. Half step up is A sharp. Half step up is B. No such thing as B sharp, so we're gonna go to C. And that's where we find the letter C using only the G string. Remember, because the musical alphabet is a pattern, everything is gonna be repeated. Things kind of come back. And this is very much true on the bass. As we move through the bass, you'll notice you'll hit a point, which happens to be where these double dots are. The double dots will tell you that the pattern is starting over again. So just like this open string is E, if I reach up here, that's also E, just an octave up. That means as we move through here, we're going through the alphabet, at some point we reach a point where E is repeated again, and then we start again to F, F sharp, G, and this is how we continue. The same thing happens for all of the strings. This right here, the second string, is D, open by itself. If I came to the double dots, you see that they sound the same. It's an octave up. So the pattern repeats from there. So after D is D sharp, and so on and so forth. So it's important to remember that everything is a circle, and it resets at the double dots. So the last thing I want to talk about during this video is, as you start to learn the bass more and learn the instrument more, you'll notice that some of these frets have markers. Every bass is different, but most of the frets will have on the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, so on and so forth, there will be markers. And if you can learn the names of these markers, it'll make finding notes way easier. So we'll start with these, with the 3rd, we'll start with the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. Right here, the 3rd fret, I know, because I've remembered it, that this right here is gonna be a G, you know? So if we move from E to F, F sharp, we're at G, right? Then, because I've remembered it, this 5th fret is A, and the 7th is B. So remembering those three allows me to quickly, if someone says, hey, we're playing in G sharp, I already know, I don't have to go through the stepwise and find it. I know that this is G, so a half step up is G sharp. If somebody says we're playing in C, I know a half step up from B is C. So I know we're immediately right here. And if you can remember the notes as they appear throughout the strings, it'll make finding the key that you're supposed to be playing in a lot easier.